Thanks for coming. Welcome to Guadalajara. We're all both happy to be here to talk about chaos and metrics. The name of this talk is Building Community Metrics for GNOME and Everyone. And I am Sri, and this is Georg Link. And
Good to see you all.
Let's get started. All right. So the first thing is I just want to kind of lay out what the talk is going to be about. First, we're gonna talk about metrics currently we have in the GNOME Foundation, and then the metrics journey with chaos, and then a little bit about an initiative that I started a few months ago called GNOME Scalable Onboarding. So with that, let's flow on through. Okay. All right. Did I hit my? Oh yeah, you went there. Good. So the history of GNOME Foundation, the metrics at GNOME history, it has been nothing. Now, I'm being completely facetious here. We absolutely have metrics. We have metrics of all kinds, but they're mostly formed around development, right? And one thing we want to think about is when we collect metrics. Next slide. Is that when we collect metrics, it needs to drive something. It needs to drive specific decisions in the organization. And if we don't have that, then these metrics are just essentially leaderboard metrics, right? We talk about what kind of development metrics, like, hey, these are the top commits, or these are the. But in actuality, are we really driving the organization forward with the metrics we have? And so this is something that we should be focused on as an organization moving forward on what is our metrics plan and what we want done. Now, there's a couple of quotes that I wanna bring up here, and the first one is, "Without data, you're just another person with an opinion." Okay, and the other one is, "If you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it." Now, I noticed in Aditya's talk in the previous session, he said exactly the same thing when it comes to improving power, right? So I know they call it a management thing, but honestly, it's true that unless we know what our situation is and we can measure it, we can't improve it, right? We can't really know what, have we made an improvement? Have we done anything moving towards a goal? And so this is where metrics really helped us as an organization moving forward. So next slide. Okay, so thank you. So to reiterate, metrics should be about driving decisions. So we come from a top down. We should never be a slave to metrics, right? Where I've been in IT organizations where we're all focused on, what is the close rate, right? Those are not things we should care about. These are not things that we care, because they misappropriate what the goals are, right? So again, it doesn't have the proper accounting, right? It's not the right account, and they should be holistic. It's not performative metrics we want. We want it's not just performative metrics, but also community health. How are we doing as an organization? Are we having a good relationship with our community? Of course, some of us probably think, I don't know, but what is our relationship with each other? What is our relationship within the community? What is our relationships with externals? What is our relationship with other sister groups? So by having them and publishing them, we can continue in our journey what's important to us. Now, we want to talk a little bit about what is the super expert, which Georg will talk about.
Okay, so Sri will be back in just a moment as well. Since this is my part of the talk, I think we can jump right back in where we left off. Again, super sorry about the technical difficulties, and big thank you to everyone who helped in the background to get us back up and running. So as Sri was talking before about why we need metrics and why GNOME is interested in having metrics, I want to bring in a different perspective and say that super experts are rare. And when I'm talking about super experts, these are people who can just look at our communities, at our projects, and they just know how things are going. And there are a few people who have this deep insight to how open source communities work, how the collaboration is going, who can sense based on the communication patterns or whatever they observe, what can be improved and how things are going. And to be honest, most of us are not super experts. I'm not a super expert. And so that is why we need to do things to get there. And so together we can be better, stronger, faster. And metrics is part of that equation. And so if Sri was here, he would make a joke that, oh, he's coming back.
Sri would say this would be where the $6 million man would show up. I came in just in time to make that comment.
Excellent.
And if you don't know the $6 million, if you do know the $6 million man thing, it means you're old. Just saying.
Okay, so let's talk about together. Oh, Sri, there's an echo coming from you. Sorry.
I will mute.
Thank you. So together, when it comes to metrics, in 2017, we had several people super interested in metrics coming together. And at the Linux Foundation in 2017, we started the Chaos project to create analytics and metrics to help define community health. So Chaos is short for Community Health Analytics Open Source Software. And to give you a little background of how I got involved in this is at the time I was working on my PhD, and I was doing a lot of qualitative research, talking to people in the field. This is experts, and some of you on this in the audience I might have talked to you. And one thing that we kept hearing in our research is we need metrics to understand our communities, our projects. Companies notoriously love to measure everything, and there were just no good metrics around. Everyone was using different metrics. And so we wanted to solve this problem together. And so we started the Chaos Group. And it's a platform where the open source ecosystem can come together and we can all work on this together. Now, moving on to being better. In the Chaos project, we are developing practices. We're looking at what is working for some of us that we can learn from. And we want to be able to analyze communities at scale. And I know that when I talked with Sri and others, the GNOME project, it's huge. There's so much, and we need these metrics to understand what is happening, how our communities are doing, because that helps us in our decision making. We can reduce the bias because we can actually see beyond just what we can observe directly. Metrics allow us to see much further, and we can enter into this data-driven management stage. But it's ideally we have the metrics public, where everyone can take part in that decision making. And we want to support the community to come together, and we want to move from opinions to facts. And so together we can create these better practices. To become stronger, we need a shared language around metrics. And so in the Chaos project, we have several working groups that formed organically. So we started with just a list of metrics. People wanted to know the number of commits over time and how many contributors did we have. But then we started to realize that, hey, there are actually subgroups of metrics where we can drive the development forward. So we have a diversity and inclusion working group. And this was especially informed by the work done by Mozilla and the OpenStack community, where they brought in their experience on what they were doing around mentoring and leadership in our communities and how we can measure those things. Events is another big area where a lot of people come together, and it's important that we are focusing on diversity inclusion here. Risk is another working group. Especially companies and open source program offices are often have a task to mitigate risk, license risk. In open source, different licenses, there's a risk there. Business risk, if you're using an open source project in your innovation stream, you want to know what that risk is and mitigate it, hopefully. And you don't want to be stuck with maintaining a project long-term because the rest of the community moved on to something else. So understanding also the evolution of a project is important. Some projects are, up and coming, and we can understand that they're growing. Some are mature and they've figured out how to work together, and they're just pushing out a new release every 6 months and it's going great. And some are on the decline. Sometimes it looks like they're in decline, but actually the technology is so mature there's not much work needed anymore. So we need to understand those contexts or the value. We have a working group that is dedicated to understanding the value of all projects and communities, because we deliver value to the contributors, and there are ways we can measure that. There's value that we deliver to other projects that rely on us. There's value we deliver to organizations, but then also to society as a whole. And we have common metrics that we share across all of these working groups. And anyway, those are all things that we are working on. And it's like a buffet where you can come and learn about metrics and start using them. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So we want to be better, stronger, faster. And we can become faster by implementing technology, having software that helps us collect the data, make the data presentable, analytics. And we want to be able to trial new ways of visualizing data, new data points, new metrics to understand communities. And so this is where software comes in. And the software that we have is actually used by companies today and for the last couple of years already. GNOME Lab was a project that existed long before Chaos came about and just moved into the fold and is part of our community now. So we have the ways for anyone who wants to start with metrics to get up and running faster than if they were to do it by themselves. So now that we've talked about how together we can be better, stronger, faster, there are a few lessons learned about starting a metrics journey. One is you want to start to listen. You want to understand your community. And to do this, you want to start collecting everything you can, especially working in the open as we do in open source. There's a lot of data readily sitting in our logs and archives that we can start to gather, but then it needs to be enriched. But it also means that it's like opening a fire hose of data. And so you need to be strategic about it. We need to ask questions and follow the GQM, or the goal, question, metric approach. That's at least our suggestion, to say, hey, for this project, for this community, we have this goal. And I'll show you an example here in a little bit about how we did this for GNOME. The data itself, we need to tell the story of the community with that. So just showing a graph that goes, to the top right corner is great, but what does that actually mean? For example, if you have issue comments going up, it might be that your user group is growing and there are more feature requests and more bugs being found, which is great. It might also be that the last release was, kind of shoddy and there are a lot of bugs to be reported. It could also be that you have Google Summer of Code starting in 1-2 months, and there are a lot of students just interested in working with your project. So just seeing the numbers is not enough. You need to tell the story of the community. And you want to be mindful about using metrics to incentivize people, because when you have like a leaderboard, people start to game the metric. They're more concerned about where they are on the leaderboard than actually advancing the community and advancing the project. So that's something to be mindful of, because at that point, the metric is no longer useful, but actually hurting the project. And this last one, we want to value all contributions. We know that in open source communities, there are a lot of people involved who do amazing work, and some of them work in the code repositories. And that data is easy to get, so counting the number of commits is easy. But there are others who do translation and organizing events and running servers, and there's so much that is not happening in our repositories that we need to figure out how can we recognize these contributions and how do we include them in our metric strategy. So these are all things to consider, and there are several resources for you to get started, to be inspired about how you can move forward in your metric journey. We have a podcast where we bring stories from people who do metrics, and you can listen to those to hear how others are doing it. We have the metrics as a resource. They can be your building blocks. We have the software that can be your tooling. And you can join the CHAOSS community as your peer group. And that is really what Sri and others, and Nuritsi before in the previous talk, we all came together and we said, okay, we have a very unique context that we want to understand, the GNOME and KDE, so the app ecosystem. And so we started a working group under CHAOSS, because CHAOSS is the platform where we all get together to talk about metrics across the open source ecosystem. So we started a working group, and this working group is slightly different from what others are doing because the projects are non-corporate. We're not just interested in one or two projects, but there are actually many projects. And there are special dynamics, and Sri can talk to this better than I can, about the unique community of app users and developers. And so as a collaboration between GNOME and KDE and others, we are starting to work on this to build metrics that everyone can use in these contexts. So let me give you a little insight to the work that we are doing. And this is the example I was hinting at before about the goal question metric approach, how this works in practice. And I'm happy to share with you all the actual documents that we are working in. First, we define the goals of what is it actually that we want for our communities. Like, we want to retain contributors. This is goal number 4 on the list. Then we realized this is a huge list, and not everyone in our projects has the same goals. So let's figure out who the stakeholders are. And we came up with these stakeholders: the promotion communications team, a financial team, community managers, release managers, coordinators across projects, event activity organizers, and mentors. And so we said, okay, these are people who we can, at least starting point, we're trying to get off 0. This is not comprehensive. And if you have additional stakeholders, additional goals, please join the working group and let us know. But this is to get us off 0. So for each stakeholder, we said, these are the goals that they're most likely to care about. And so for event and activity organizers, this was retain contributors, understand company contributions, and identify the wholeness of skills in our project. And now that we understand that the event organizer wants to do this, we can actually go in and say, how can we, or what are the questions for reaching these goals? So for goal number 6, understanding company contributions, as an event organizer, I might ask how many event attendees come from companies versus our volunteer contributors in our project. or what companies are attending our event? And once we have these questions identified that can help us reach our goal, is to then identify the metrics and where to get the data from that. This might be a little small to read out, but again, I'm happy to share all of the resources developed in the open together. So this is the step where we left off last week. Did we have our last meeting last week? So this is all very fresh, very new and in the making, and we are very much still figuring things out. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Sri to talk about how we're not just developing these metrics that can be used in GNOME and KDE in the app ecosystem, but actually what you do with them.
Okay, first I'm going to have to apologize. My contractors are here and they're hammering away. So if you hear all that, it's because that's how it is. So I hope you can deal with it just like I'm going to have to deal with it. So my worst fears has arisen that we are in the midst of hammering. So
your voice is coming loud
me,
and clear, so not a worry.
not hopefully not the hammering. So scalable onboarding initiative. So this idea started around the same time the other idea started, and I may have missed it, but did you talk about how this whole thing started from the beginning, in the sense that
I did not talk about how we started the working
how the
group.
work group got started?
No, do you want to tell that story?
I liked it when you told it, so please go ahead and go right ahead and do that.
So this was back, just in March of this year before the whole shutdown. We were at Scale, the last conference, yes, right as California was declaring the state of emergency. Anyway, we were at Scale in Pasadena in LA, and Sri came up to me and said, "Hey, Georg, we should do something with metrics for GNOME." And so I said, "Sure. Chaos. Yes, we're all about metrics."
There's many people who know what that feels like when I come up to them and say, "We need to do in this crowd."
Yeah. So being at Scale, we immediately walked over to a few other people who we thought might be interested in working on this, and so we started the working group right there at Scale with Noritzi and
Sean,
I'm blanking. Yes, Sean and Neil.
Neo. Yep, very forward.
Yeah, so that's how it got started, on the whim at a conference.
Yes, and so I had actually talked to Neil prior to that and said, "This is something we need to do," and Neil was like, "Okay," and so we put this together, and it's like a conglomerate of many people and companies and organizations, because when we talk about metrics, we've never really discussed our kind of people, right? That this whole app ecosystem is not just, it's a series of things, right? So this is just this initiative, Scalable Onboarding, the Chaos Project, Linux Application Summit, and an upcoming micro conference on Linux App Ecosystem is to establish an app ecosystem among all the projects. So this is a kind of really broad based, and we're doing many initiatives around the way so that we can grow more efficiently, right? And to be able to measure and say, look, our projects in this space matters, right? And in this huge thing with open source becoming huge and everything, I feel like our community has been kind of pushed off to the side despite contributing some incredible amount of technology, right? So with that aside, I'm gonna go talk a little bit about the initiative on the slide here. So because we have the Chaos Project and the working group creating metrics, we really need to prepare our organization to receive those metrics, to be able to use those metrics in a way that that we can do with one of the biggest problems we have, right, in GNOME, and that is resources. And when people say we don't have enough resources, it's a common refrain, right? That happens in KDE, that happens in Go, it happens in many other projects. But what does that mean? What does that mean to say we need resources? Because it's not a linear thing. We don't say if I gave 30 if I got 30 developers to work on GTK, everybody in GTK would be like, "Oh my God, no!" You know, it is not something we would be greeted with jubilation, because that's an incredible amount of overhead. The GTK team, at least the people who are working 100%, is very, very small, and to absorb that many people is basically we'll just have to stop working on GTK, right? It's because of that overhead. So we have to know how to grow smartly, and every team is different in a sense that every team we have a lot of teams. What skill set is required is different. So if you're going back to what Georg was looking at, we've split them into teams, right? We have a team on engineering, we have a team in engagement, we have financial, so we're basically enumerating the resources we have. And that's what the first goal we've been doing, hold on. Yes, Neil. What was it about the Neil thinks it'd be fantastic if we had 30 developers working on GTK. But okay, I got 10 more minutes. I'll blast this out. So the thing is that enumerating our resources is the first step to understanding how we can grow as an organization. So we started this around May or so, and we started with 2 people, and now we are 11 people. So it's a popular topic, amazingly. But the thing is we start off with enumerating our resources. What resources do we have? And then we start with an interaction map. How do we interact as people working on a project, right? So we understand how these resources interact with each other, and then we come up with personas that, like, what would be somebody who's interested. So that way we know how to fit skill sets into what we have, right? So this is something that's, I think, is really going to be important going forward for our organization, because we've been fairly static in terms of growth, in my opinion. Do I really know that? I don't know. We don't have any metrics. So just to underline that, right? So I'm basically, that's my opinion, and I don't have anything to back that up. But this is exactly why. Are we static, or are we growing? Are we not growing? Whatever it is. But then we need to intentionally decide how those projects should grow. And sometimes it's not devs that you want, but you may need somebody who knows how to handle project management. Sometimes you may want somebody who is working on bug triage or anything else. But usually it's a progression to, if you think of it as a game, you find the boss fight is finally in GTK, right? So, but you work your way up your skill set until you're finally getting there, right? So, so that's kind of where we're at right now. And so I would love to ask your help in what to do afterwards, because we want to have an accurate vision of what the world looks like today. And if we know how accurate it is, then we can build models on where do we want to be in 6 months, in 2 years, or 5 years. There was a talk a long time ago at GNOMEorg that some of you may be familiar with, was 10 by 10, right? If you go back and we said 10 by 10, in 10 years, we're going to have 10 times the growth. But we had no metrics. So how do we know what growth is? How do we measure? How do we get there? And that's the critical piece, is to be able to have those metrics. So we can't say 10 by 10 is a visionary goal. So this initiative, the Chaos Initiative, are all part of a whole to get where we want to go. Georg, you want to move on? I'll swing it back to you. I think we have like 3-4 minutes left.
All right, so the theme for today was how together we. Sorry, Shri, can you mute yourself, please? I got an echo. No, you're awesome. It's the echo. So we wanted to discuss how together we can be better, stronger, faster through metrics. And our hope is that you took something away from this. And for the last few minutes, we want to invite you to join these efforts. So we have a link here to the App Ecosystem Working Group. We are on GitHub, and then there are Google Docs. We are on Matrix. You can find all this in the README. And then the Scalable Onboarding Initiative is over at the GNOME GitLab instance. There's a link to the slides where you have all of these URLs in the shared notes. They show up on the left in big blue button for me. So you can go there and find all of this. If you're interested in becoming more involved in chaos, I invite you to listen to the Chaos Cast, our podcast. Open your favorite podcast app right now and search for it and subscribe. We would love to get your feedback. And if you want to come on because you have a story about how you use metrics, just let me know. Please do review our metrics. There may be some interesting ideas that you can use in your work. And you can also contribute to the software and building out more metrics and helping us be faster in that regard. And then if you just want to be participating in the community as a whole, you can join our mailing list, participate in any of our working groups. They're all open. So come to chaos.community/participate. You can also, of course, become more involved in GNOME, and there are many ways that you can become involved. Head over to gnome.org/get-involved. And to round it off, we are happy to chat with you a little bit more. The slide here is already outdated because there is a new channel. Let's see, can I type? I want to text tool. I'm trying to annotate the, I don't know how to do this in big blue button, sorry. In the chat.gnome.org, there is a channel, Guadec-track 2, that we will hang out and we can answer any questions you have there and we can continue the conversation. Also, that's where I will post the links that I have here on the slide. If you want to see our work, just, yeah, check us out. Shri, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yes, if anybody's interested in the Scalable Onboarding Project, we meet on Saturdays at noon Pacific Standard Time. But we'd be happy to have more people. It's a great way to actually understand GNOME from a top point of view, since we're looking at it from a high level perspective. One of the things we talked about was, how does a release happen? How does a GNOME release happen? Most people think it's magic, and it may be pretty much be magic. But we're trying to make it so it's not so magical, is you'll be able to understand how all of that is. So if you're interested in those kinds of things, then show up, and I can put the link on the track and join us. It would be great to have more people. Thank you.
All right. I was just checking to see if there were any questions that we can address. I think we still have a moment or two. So if anyone has questions, please head over to Guadec-track 2 on chat.gnome.org. Ask us there. There's also a document. And so one question that we have is, any thoughts of having exit interviews for people who leave the project? Why did they leave, and what can we do better? And working for Bitergia, I know that Wikimedia, one of our customers, is using metrics to understand who is becoming inactive, who has not contributed in a certain period of time. And they use this to reach out and say, hey, thank you very much for your participation. And is there any feedback you have for how we can improve the experience in the future? And I think there is value to doing that because you can foster this relationship with the community members, especially if you have someone who was engaged before and you just reach out and say, hey, thanks for having been here. We know that sometimes things change in life and focus change, but we want to thank you. And do you have any thoughts on, for us to improve in the future? So that is my opinion, and I know that some communities are doing this. So yeah, there's value. Sri, do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think when it comes to exit interviews, it's going to be there's definitely has to be a kind of a process to be able to support that, because it's not easy to tell if somebody's leaving, at least that I know of, I'm aware of, other than you look at the metrics and you see it's come down, and then you have an opt-in. Hey, you're planning to leave. If you're no longer interested in working, please let us know. Those are probably good ways that you could do that and have links, whatever. So that's probably my first thoughts on that. Yeah.
All right. I honestly am not keeping track of time, so as long as we're not being kicked out, I assume we still have time. There was another question about chaos being linked to Bitergia, and the answer is yes, there is a connection. Bitergia is a co-founder of the chaos community, and Bitergia created Grimoire Lab initially and donated the software to the chaos project. And of course, Bitergia is still an active member in the community as well. So that's the connection there.
Of course. Chaos is a big fan of GNOME. There's already a Bitergia has instructions on how to set up one for GNOME already, which are very quite appreciative. I want to do a shout out there for that.
Yeah, our CEO is a big fan of GNOME. So I don't see any more questions right now. We'll continue the conversation in the GUADEC-Track 2 channel. So please head over there, and thank you very much for coming to our talk and listening to the new and exciting things that we're working on right now.
Yes, thank you as well. It's always wonderful to be able to talk to our community. It's one of the best communities I've ever been involved in. And thanks again. And we hope that this work will help put not just GNOME, but our sister and any other project, large and public-facing, complex, and help them.
Looks like Sri timed out. Froze. Sorry. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In the chat.
Thank you so much, Georg and Sri. Great talk.
My pleasure.